I'm Robert Wessels, and I'm running to be Maine's next governor. I'm just a regular Mainer with a 40-plus hour a week job. Because I'm not a career politician, I launched my campaign in July of 2023. For the last year and a half, I have had the opportunity of a lifetime. I've been touring the state with hundreds of campaign stops. I have had thousands upon thousands of conversations with Mainers all over the state. I've been to fairs, parades, visiting businesses and churches, going lobstering at 4 a.m., walking through blueberry fields, and talking with woodsmen and small business owners. What I want to tell you in this video comes from those experiences and conversations with everyday Mainers like me. Tonight, Janet Mills will be giving a speech on the state of the state. And no matter how she paints it, it isn't pretty. For the last 6 years, Augusta has spent more than they needed, and now the bill has come due. During the early Mills years, she had COVID money from the federal government rolling in to cover up her expensive budget. The most recent years, she had inflation money to cover up her budget increases. As inflation hurts you and I, it helps Janet and our legislature. Let me explain. If the same item costs $1.50 instead of $1, the state's 5.5% tax revenue is 50% larger. They have used this revenue to grow our budget even more. Instead of cutting the budget this year and making the hard choices, Janet has decided to raise more taxes and has vowed to sign any taxes that our Democrat legislature sends her way. When this happens, folks like you and I, working Mainers, will be left to pick up the tab, just like we have been every time before. We need to tell Governor Mills that Maine's working families and businesses have had enough. We don't want her spending our money on things we don't need. Maine needs change, and we need it now. I grew up on a farm, I worked hard in school, I earned my MBA, and I learned a ton in the School of Hard Knocks. Every day, I go to work and use my knowledge, experience, and expertise in the business world to keep the lights on and keep my people paid. I am always trimming wants out of the budget. I have spent the last 19 years teaching classes on budgeting and personal finance. I know how to create an effective budget, and I know how to live on a bare bones budget. Energy is another area of our state that I hear about everywhere I go. Our energy policies are failing, and they're causing further economic decline. My personal electricity bill for my small house has gone up by $200 since September. Politicians in Augusta have created an artificial market for the green energy lobbyists that support them. We cannot put all of our eggs in the basket of an energy sector that is not consistent enough to be a primary energy source. I'm not against solar and wind for personal residences. They are just not sufficient or efficient enough to supply our state. We need to refocus our attention on unleashing hydropower and explore 21st century options for nuclear power generation. Nuclear has come a long way and is being touted by many as the clean energy of the future. Dear ago, let's lead in this direction, Maine. We must make our net energy billing policy a relic of the past and not base our energy future on this pyramid scheme for power generation. Our energy crisis at the state level has become a personal budget crisis at home, and we must turn it around. There are many things that need to be fixed in our state. Taxes and energy are just two of them. I mention them because if Mainers look closely, they can see that our failures in these areas are based on very bad policy coming out of our state capital. They can be fixed with the right people and the right ideas in place. We don't need to overthink things. We need to focus on the basics. If we do the basics of government well, supported by common sense policy, I firmly believe that we can get our state back on the right track. A revolution of common sense is starting to catch fire around the world. This common sense approach is exactly what Maine needs. But those who hold absolute power in Maine will resist it. As Mainers, we must elect people in our local communities, our school boards, our House and Senate, and our governor, who will not only embrace this common sense revolution, but who will fight for it. We need leaders who will demand that common sense is the foundational principle governing our state. I remember during COVID, I was talking to someone about how terribly it was being handled. They looked at me with all sincerity and said, "So I'm not alone?" As I come to an end, I want to leave you with this message of hope. You are absolutely not alone. As I have toured the state, the majority of Mainers are feeling what you're feeling. Many have been too afraid to voice it out of fear of being ostracized, but this is changing. The tide is turning, and common sense is coming back. It just hasn't arrived in Augusta yet. I invite you. No, I plead with you. Join the movement. I'm Robert Wessels. I'm an advocate for common sense, and I will fight to bring Maine's core values back to the Blaine House. I'd love to have you join our movement. Together is our only option, and together we win. Thank you for listening, and to find out more about the campaign, find us on social media or visit voterobertwessels.com. I am Robert Wessels, and I approve of this message.